Hello. Good evening, South Windsor, and welcome to the South Windsor Town Council regular meeting of Monday, September 19th at 7 p.m. Can I get a pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Counselor Evans,
Here.
Counselor Kowalski,
Here.
Counselor Lopez,
Here.
Counselor Paterna,
Here.
Mayor Pendleton,
Present.
Deputy Mayor King,
Here.
Counselor Kozakowski,
Here.
Counselor Leidecker,
Here.
and Counselor Gamble.
Here.
Okay, good evening. Under the mayor's remarks, I have a few comments that we are going to be switching A with B, and our assessor, Mary Huda, is going to give us a presentation on the personal property assessment forms that were mailed out today. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I want to thank Mayor Liz and all of the council members for giving me the opportunity to come in this evening and speak with you briefly regarding the upcoming filing period for personal property declarations. In your packets or on your councils, I've left a couple of forms that we're going to go over quickly just so that you have that reference for you. The personal property declarations were mailed out to all existing businesses of record that we are aware of, as well as about 105 new accounts that we added during the course of the year. Those are both new commercial buildings, new LLCs that have been registered through the town clerk and the trade name process here in town, as well as anyone who pulled a major or a minor home occupation through planning and zoning. So all of those will be mailed out. In addition, on the website, for the assessor's page on the town's website, there is all of the forms that anyone might need. There's a short form, which is in your packet. There's a long form for personal property declarations. There's also a specialized form for manufacturers, machinery, and the exemption forms that go along with that. So certainly if anyone reaches out to you and says, hey, I think I'm supposed to be filing personal property, I didn't get a form in the mail, they can go right to the website, they can find everything that they need. They can certainly contact myself and my staff for assistance with that. Also, just to bring you to a couple of other points on the website, our own Counselor Lopez, during his stint and sitting on the Board of Assessment Appeals, had asked the IT director, Scott Roberts, and at the time the assistant town manager, to ask me to put together a step-by-step filing guide for people that are small businesses, right? Individual sole proprietors that may need assistance with this form if they're not familiar with it or they're not using a CPA for their business. So that is also available on there. You'll notice if you flip through it, it is referencing the 2019 declaration, but the declaration is basically the same. It's just the depreciation that changes every year. Also on the website is an affidavit. If someone in passing says to you, hey, you know, I'm getting this form, but I closed my business, there's an affidavit. It's just one page. It's very simple that they can fill out and return to the office, and that will properly close out their account for the year. In speaking with the mayor, kind of how this all came to be was we were working on a letter for the chamber newsletter, which I believe also is going to hit this week, kind of reminding people that personal property filing season is upon us. Two of the things I want to stress is that the form has to be returned back to the office, either hand-delivered or postmarked by November 1st, right? If we don't receive it by that time, we do by statute have to impose a penalty. Right, so if you have small business owners, we certainly don't want to penalize them, but they have to get that form into us by November 1st, which is a Tuesday this year. So we'll be here late on Monday night till 7 o'clock to assist anyone, and then they can bring it in and file it on Tuesday. We'd obviously love to have them back before that. Anybody who wants to file early, we're more than happy to take those in. And other than that, does anyone have any questions about the filing process?
What is the amount of penalty that if they don't get their forms in? Could you set a penalty would
It's
occur?
25% of the assessed value of the account of the property, right? So if it's got $1,000 assessment, which is 70% of the fair market value of the property that they own, it would be a $250 assessment penalty.
So taking the time to fill out a form, they can fill it out online, they can print it if they didn't get it. fill it out, hand fill it out, and bring it to your office?
Right. And if they have
All have to be hand-delivered?
correct. Hand-delivered or postmarked by the 1st.
Okay.
We all, except for the people that want to file online, we do have the online filing option that we've had for the last 3 years. We have about 300 accounts that are now taking part and participating in that online filing. That's certainly something that we're working with the business community on. Certainly if you have a CPA, they're aware of that option. And it does make it nice because it depreciates all your assets for you. Basically, all you have to do is go in and add that top line of anything that you acquired in the last assessment calendar year.
And there's a tutorial on your website that will walk them through each and every form along with your contact information if needed, correct?
That is correct, and we're happy to speak to anybody. The last thing we want to hear is, oh, I got that form in the mail, I didn't know what it was, so I put it aside, and now it's December 30th, right?
Yeah.
So certainly, any questions, happy to answer them by phone, email. We've gone out to businesses, we've helped people come up with an asset inventory listing. So whatever assistance they need, we'd be more than happy to provide.
And this is all applicable to strictly businesses in our community?
Any business entity, anybody who is a farmer and has farm machinery and equipment, anybody who has an unregistered or an out-of-state registered vehicle also is supposed to declare under personal property.
I'm glad you clarified that. It's not just for businesses. Okay.
It's for everyone.
Sorry, is there any other questions? Councilor Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is that $250 assessment that you're referring to, is that in state statute, or is that something that the town controls?
That is state statute, and it's applicable across any municipality in Connecticut. There is no local option.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, you're the messenger. You're not the one who's, coming up with these numbers. It's
No.
from the state saying, okay, thank you.
And it's 25%. The 250 was just an example.
Right,
that I
right,
gave,
yep.
But it's based on the calculation. And it's also based, if you file nothing and you haven't filed with us in the past, it's based on an estimate of your business that I have to provide. So it's best to get us the information.
Any other questions? This is very helpful for folks of our community, and this was mailed out today, correct?
The mailing went out today out of our vendor who's in Waterbury, Connecticut. So I would expect that everyone would have the forms by the end of the week.
And they're due by November 1st.
November 1st?
And if you don't have a great turnaround mid-October, come back and visit us and do your spiel again at our October meeting and see if we can generate some more folks to fill out the forms.
Okay.
That'd be
It is
helpful.
interesting. Typically, about 50% of the forms come in between October 28th and November 1st.
Okay.
So we
If
get
you
a lot of
want to
early
pay a
birds.
visit again, you're more than welcome to come back. And
Okay.
all right.
Thank you, Mayor Liz. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you so much, Mary. And moving on now, we have Mr. Walter Summers, our fire marshal, is going to be doing a presentation on ready.gov.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for inviting us. Instead of ready.gov, we did an overall emergency preparedness kind of presentation for you. And I've been advised to keep this at 5 minutes. So we're going to run through this. There's a lot of resources on the slides. Everyone has a printout of it, so you don't have to
Okay.
turn around and
Okay.
do it. But
Am I blocking the
IT
light?
is going to follow this online, and obviously the presentation will be part of the council meeting, so people can go back and click on the links if they need it. Mary?
Mr. Maniscalco, do you want to get the lights? Thank you.
So the first one we're going to talk about is winter storm preparedness. Obviously, we're coming into that season. And everyone's emergency kit at home you should plan for at least 72 hours of working for yourself without any assistance from the town, because the town will be clearing out the roads, we'll be cleaning up the roads, we'll be setting up, if it's a large storm, we'll be setting up the shelters and everything. We want everybody to plan for about 72 hours of self-sufficient. If you remember back in the 2011 storm, we were 7 days, I believe. We were pretty much on our own for that. For your home, I'm sorry, let's start there. You want to prepare food, water, medications, make sure you got enough of your prescriptions. flashlight and phone chargers for your phones if you want to buy those power boxes, or I think they call them. Make sure you got them charged up. The town does run some charging stations. We run one at the library and up here at the town council chambers. We do that. For your car, you should have some jumper cables, flares, the ice scraper, and snow broom. For your pets, obviously, make sure that they have their meds also, and their water and food. And also, for a winter storm, make sure you shovel a path, because they are going to have to go outside. For your heating systems, this is very important. We're going to talk about this more than once tonight. Please have your annual maintenance of your furnaces completed. One of the biggest issues we have in the wintertime is carbon monoxide poisoning when your furnaces are not running properly. Also, in a big snowstorm, a lot of the furnaces now are direct vent with the plastic pipes. Everyone kind of has them at their home now. Sometimes, if the snow is high enough, those will get buried. You want to make sure that you keep those clear so the exhaust goes out properly, and also you get the fresh air coming in, because one pipe is exhaust and one is fresh air.
Mr. Summers, could you also include chimneys in that?
That's coming up.
Oh, sorry.
And generators, obviously, run them outside in well-ventilated areas. Make sure you have enough gas, and obviously that you've done the proper work with a licensed electrician to make sure your hookup is correct and you're not backfeeding up to the pole where an Eversource employee may get shocked. Portable heaters, if you have electric heater running in your house, make sure that that is 3 feet away from any furniture or combustible items. They will catch fire. A lot of the newer ones also have a tip-over function where it'll automatically shut off if it's tipped over. So that's kind of some of our safety points for winter. Hurricanes, obviously everybody knows Fiona is out there. We were watching it very closely over the last couple of days to make sure that the path would turn. These two websites are the ones that we use here for the town to keep an eye on the track, and this is the latest track this afternoon from the National Hurricane Center, and with good news for us, Bermuda not so much, but we will be missing the storm. But we will keep an eye on that over the next few days to make sure that track does not change. For hurricane preparedness, they want you to, for water, 1 gallon per person per day for several days. Obviously for drinking, but also if your water is out, you have to flush the toilets and everything. So they want you to save up water. Food, several days supply of non-perishable food. Once again, extra batteries and your power banks for your cell phones. Sanitary items like moist towelettes, garbage bags and everything. And prescription meds and your over-counter medications, because we're going to need a lot of Tylenol and Excedrin during these days. So make sure you got enough of that. Your pet supplies and cash, because the ATMs might not work. So you might need some cash. We did run into that in the 2011 storm also. I remember that. So you want to plan ahead. You want to know how you're going to receive your emergency alerts and warnings. We're going to go over that. You want to know where your shelter is. Right in town, the main shelter is the high school. You want to know your evacuation routes. Make sure you have 2 ways out of your neighborhood. How do you communicate with your household, your family, your friends? And have you updated your emergency preparedness kit recently? Because we are in hurricane season. So resources for our residents, there are 3 national websites that you can go to. Ready.gov. So Ready.gov is FEMA's website. It was launched in 2003 with 4 main goals. It wanted to keep people informed. It wants people to make an emergency plan. It wants people to build an emergency kit and get involved with your community. We have a a CERT team that we're trying to start up again. You also have Company 6 down at the Volunteer Fire Department, which is in dire need of some volunteers, so we want people to get involved. And then Do One Thing is started in 2005 by some emergency managers in Michigan, and it wants you to do one thing per month for emergency preparedness. And that website actually has a very good calendar you can get, and once a month it'll pick an item like food, family communication. It does one subject matter per month, and it wants you to go through that. And then obviously the Red Cross, and they are going to need some help in Puerto Rico, and I encourage people to support that. State of Connecticut, you have the emergency management website. You have CT Prepare app for your phone. CT Alert, which I'm signed up for, you can sign up and get notices from the state of Connecticut. 211 is the helpline. And obviously Eversource outage reporting and map. And I download that on my phone. It's an app. If you go on there, it's free to get the outage map. You can see where all the outages are in your town, or you can report one. Locally, we have Everbridge for our reverse 911 system here. We've used it quite a bit. The link will be there for people to sign up. Anyone new to town, I encourage them to sign up. And obviously, we use social media quite a bit. I want to talk a little bit more about winter fire safety. The fire department has an open house coming up on the 23rd at Firehouse 3. Fire Prevention Week is coming up. And we want everybody to have a fire escape plan out of their house. No two ways out. Another important item is hopefully everybody has a carbon monoxide detector installed in your home. Carbon monoxide detectors are typically good for 7 to 10 years. So take it off the wall, check the date on the back. If it's 7 or 10 years from that date on the back of the item, you need to replace it. And then smoke alarms, same thing. Smoke alarms are only good for 10 years. Take it down. There's a date on the back of it. If it's more than 10 years old, you need to replace that. The fire department also has a file for life. This file for life is excellent. It goes on your refrigerator, and it lists all your emergency contacts, medications, etc. My mom has one on her fridge. So if the ambulance shows up or fire department shows up, all your important information is right here. Obviously, servicing the heating system, proper storage of ashes from the fireplaces and wood stoves. We've had quite a few calls where people put the hot ashes in the garbage bins, and there you go. And just like the mayor mentioned, anybody who runs a wood stove, pellet stove, please clean your chimneys once a year before the heating season, as we get chimney fires sometime. And any questions? I think I kept it under 5 minutes.
I need one of those file for lives for my husband. He never even told me about that. No, I'm kidding. I'll have to get one. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you. Thank you for preparing this for us and coming and talking to us about that. And folks can go back and watch the video if they didn't get all the information or links from you the first go around. They can go back and view this in our meeting. Is this also on your?
We'll put a link up on our emergency management page.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Great. And folks can see that. Thank you so much for your help. Appreciate it. And moving on, we have the adoption of the agenda. Oh, stop. You're so funny. Thank you. And that would be Councilor Kabowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve the adoption of the agenda as presented.
Is there any discussion, additions, changes, moving anything? Not hearing any? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Item number 6, communication report from the town manager, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few items. First of all, in regards to town hall and library parking lots, I want to make sure that the council, as well as the public, is aware that the town is going to be repaving the town hall and library parking lots starting in October. Preparation for the work of catch basins and sidewalks and drainage have already started. The public and other people going to both the town hall and library should expect modified traffic patterns in the lot in changing locations. Please set aside additional time if you plan to come to the facilities. This work is being funded through the capital improvements budget. Also want to make sure that the council is aware that the state of Connecticut has made a request of all municipalities in the state to submit mass gathering information. This will allow the state to ensure the safety of the events by doing online monitoring. As a result, the town staff are in the process of modifying a process to apply for the use of town facilities in order to gather and provide the appropriate and timely information to the state of Connecticut. Also, the Water Pollution Control Authority will be issuing the sewer use bills sometime the last week of September. The fee this year for residents will be $425 for the year. This is the first increase the town has seen in the sewer use fees in 3 years, and it was an increase from $415. The increase is due to the operating cost inflation and the need to fund infrastructure replacements and capital improvements. I also wanted to take a moment to recognize the Human Resources staff, Parks and Recreation staff, and Facilities staff, who all played an important role in making our employee recognition event a success. Every year, I'm always impressed with the number of employees we have who have been with our town for 20 plus years. Additionally, this year we had a number of retirements of employees who have served the town for many years and a number of new hires. I would like to take the opportunity to again welcome our new employees and to thank our retiring ones for their years of service to the residents of South Windsor. And one last item that I didn't get onto the report because we just found out today, it was announced out of the governor's office that we have been awarded a steep grant for around $450,000 to do work on Kennedy Road. That'll help us in order to implement a economic development project moving forward. So very pleased with that, and I'd like to recognize the staff that worked really hard in Public Works as well as our finance department to make sure that we were not only eligible to actually receive a steep grant, but also putting the application together. They did a great job. So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Maniscalco?
One last thing,
Sure.
I just wanted to recognize, we also have a DT Malpour from the Girl Scouts here. If it's okay, I'd like to have her come up and just talk to you briefly about a recycling project she's doing for one of her Girl Scouts awards. She just came in. So
Before we do that, and I'll get you up in
Sure.
just 1 second. I just want to go back to Mr. Summers real quick before he leaves. Mr. Summers, if you could just a real quick suggestion or question. Everything that you shared with us, could you share that with Human Services? As I'm sitting here and listening to you, some of our older folks may not have internet, and they may not have, and maybe there's some information to call 211 or a way that Human Services can share with some of our community members.
So I'll reach out to Greg Roberts, and we'll get some of those File for Lifes over to Andrea and her team.
Yes.
And I'm sure she'll put it out on her newsletter or something, which a lot of people do get. So
Correct.
We'll get some over there.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I just didn't mean to enter. I just
No,
didn't want
that's
to lose
fine.
that thought process.
Yeah, he was going to skedaddle, so.
I know, I want to let him go.
miss it.
So, yes, we'd like to welcome a Girl Scout presentation from Aditi Malpur. Is that correct? Please join us. Is the microphone on, Mr. Maniscalco?
Just push the button on the microphone.
On the bottom? There you go.
Nope. Not yet.
One more time.
Push it and hold it.
There you go.
Hello.
Hi, you're on.
Hello. I'm Aditi. I'm a senior at South Windsor High School, and I've been part of Troop 10901 for about 5 years now. And I'm pursuing my Gold Award project, and I've been going around South Windsor and other towns and trying to teach them how to recycle right, as recycling is a huge problem in our community. So as a part of my project, I made this sticker here that I've been distributing around town that can go up on recycling bins, so it serves as a constant reminder of what you can and can't recycle. And it's waterproof, so for days like these, I'm currently drenched, but so that the sticker won't get wet and ruined. And it has a QR code on here that accesses more information, so anybody can just go in and type in whatever they confused about, and it'll tell you whether to put the item in your trash or in your recycling. So I've gone around to Pleasant Valley, to the farmers markets, to the Evergreen concerts, and I've distributed about 500 of these stickers so far. And I've been continuing to distribute them and try to educate our community on what's right and what's wrong when it comes to recycling. So like, for example, black plastic can't be recycled anymore. Bottle caps, pill bottles, anything small that can get jammed in machines can't go in the recycling anymore, because all that recycling that then gets trapped into the machines at the facilities has to go back to the landfills, and we currently already don't have space in our landfills to add more of our recycling to the trash. So it's a really prominent issue that I've been trying to work to solve, and I've been doing so for the last year or so. And I've been working with Mr. Manfrey here from the town department. So I had a presentation and all, but I think that is my time.
I think what you
Very
have
good.
is great. Would you mind passing that around to the council members?
I have a lot of stickers for everybody here. If you
Oh,
wanted
how
to
nice.
go home and put them on your recycling bins, I would be a great honor.
Well, thank you so
Perfect.
much. What a great presentation. And Mr. Manfrey, do you have any comments about this program?
Good evening, thank you. Yeah, so Aditi's been doing a lot of work with this, and it's a really great project to help promote our recycling program and the programs that we offer. She did a really great job with the stickers. I think it's a really good message that they promote. It's something that you're going to see on the bins, and it'll help continue to progress our program. So she did a lot of hard work on this, and we're really proud of her.
So we're going to continue to put these stickers around town, in the library, in the Public Works Department, and I think the kids go on a field trip. The second graders go to the Public Works every department, so I've asked Mr. Manfrey to continue distributing these stickers and putting the sticker on the town Facebook pages, etc., promoting it in any way possible.
Well, I'm wondering if there's a way that could be distributed through the public school system. If you contacted Dr. Kate Carter, if it could be part of a handout in the school system, I don't know, maybe contact her. That'd be,
We do Public Works Week in May, so that's going to be part of the swag bag that we do, and yeah, so we'll keep these in town offices, and we can look at the schools. So
well,
we're
great.
excited for it.
Yeah, come on, congratulations. And this is going to get you closer to your gold award?
Yes, so my interview is October 10th, so this is like the final stretch.
Awesome, good for you. Oh, this is so cool. I love it.
Now you guys got to make sure you put them on your recycle bin, not on each other.
Mr. Maniscalco. Do you need,
Thank you.
do you need a picture or anything to show that you've been here? We absolutely can. All of us, come on. Thank you, everyone. And now we're back to Mr. Maniscalco. Does anyone have any questions concerning the town manager's report? Councilor Gamble.
Thanks. So congratulations, Mr. Maniscalco, on the steep grant for getting that out there. That's a significant amount of money. That's going to really help offset some of the costs, I hope. And then my question was, does the Water Pollution Control Authority enjoy the same collection rate as our tax department?
Seeing as our tax department does the collections, I believe, yes, it is. Yeah, they're well up there in the 99% plus for sewer use fees. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd like to address your point that you asked before about the penalty. The Water Pollution Control Authority sets their own rates based off of their needs and whatever they feel is necessary for their whole budgetary issue. The council has no control over that, of which many people think we do. We do not. It's all governed by state statute. And also any penalty that's incurred is also governed by statute. So that's not done within in our town hall. Any other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Appreciate it. Now we're moving on to public input for items on the agenda. Public shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by me, the speaker shall approach the lectern and give their name and address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item on the agenda. The speaker or speakers shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on public input on any items on the agenda? Anyone from the public like to speak? Going a third time, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on items on the agenda? Not seeing any, we'll be moving on to item number 8, adoption of minutes from the previous meetings. We have Councilor Kubaski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 8A, approval of August 29th, 2022 Town Council Special Meeting Minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the special Town Council meeting of August 29th, 2022.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion, changes, deletions, corrections on that one? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Madam Mayor, I need to abstain, please.
An abstention. Roll call, please.
Counselor Evans?
Abstain?
Counselor Kabowski?
Yes.
Counselor Lopez?
Yes.
Counselor Paterna?
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King?
Yes.
Counselor Kozakowski?
Yes.
Counselor Lidecker?
Abstaining.
Counselor Gamble?
Yes.
2 abstentions and 7 yeses.
Thank you. The motion carries. Moving on now to 8B, please.
Item 8B, approval of September 6th, 2022 regular Town Council meeting minutes. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of September 6th, 2022.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion, changes, deletions, additions, corrections? Not seeing any?
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to know on page 4, under number 8, adoption of minutes of the previous meeting, it lists me as seconding the motion and then later abstaining. I don't believe I seconded it.
Deputy Mayor King may have.
That sounds about right.
Yes.
So if we can amend the minutes to reflect that Deputy Mayor King seconded the motion.
So we'll change that from Councilor Merrick, or Councilor Mayor Kozakowski to Deputy Mayor King, please.
Okay.
Right in that paragraph in the first sentence.
That's it. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. All in favor with adoption of the minutes with the correction? Councilor Paterno? Sorry, okay. Any opposed? Not seeing any abstentions?
Madam Mayor, I need to abstain.
Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Evans?
Yes?
Counselor Kabowski?
Yes.
Counselor Lopez?
Yes.
Counselor Paterna?
Yes.
Mayor Pendleton?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King?
Yes.
Counselor Kozakowski?
Yes.
Counselor Lidecker?
Abstain.
Counselor Gamble?
Yes.
All right. 8 yeses and 1 abstention.
Thank you. And the motion carries. Thank you. Item number 9, communications for liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council. Does anyone have any reports that they'd like to give as liaisons to any meetings? Councilor Evans.
Thank you. First is the Park and Rec Commission that met on September 14th. A lot of information was shared about all the great work that our Parks and Rec Department is doing. I think at the end of all the conversation, what we all realize is how hard that department is working, how much work they do, especially through the summer. and how amazing it is that they're able to do what they do. So I again just want to reiterate on behalf of the Park and Rec Commission, thank you to the Park and Rec staff for all they did through the summer. We did also have speakers that came to our meeting, another Girl Scout group that talked about a proposal for the King Street Campground, something that they're working on for their project. I think we may hear more of that in the future, and I know that's something that Molly Keys is working with them and discussing. Another group that came and spoke was the Throwball group in town. It is a group of women who competed nationally, and they made it to the quarterfinals. It is not a, we're trying to get it active in the Park and Rec and get some kind of group going through Park and Rec, some league. And it's very exciting too, because I'm not really sure that there is a throw ball being offered through a Park and Rec in Connecticut, perhaps New England. So I'm really excited for that to be something that South Windsor does. Human Relations Commission it will be at the Farmers Market this weekend for the International Day of Peace. So you'll find them there at the Farmers Market. They will have some small activities and things to hand out to the community to celebrate International Day of Peace. The third I have is South Windsor Alliance for Families. We met today and went through just so many of the activities going on in town. There is Peace Wheels for Peace will be at Timothy Edwards starting this Wednesday. The community center will be holding Eat Dinner with Your Family Night on September 28th. They stated that there are statistics that show that families that eat together are less likely to experience drug and alcohol abuse. So families are welcome to join at the community center for this event. There's more information on their page. Our police representative was there speaking about all the great things they're doing in the community, SROs in the schools, and the relationships they have, the work that they've done with safety on roads, especially with the starting of schools, all the places they've been, Wapping Fair, Apple Fest, Pleasant Valley Fall Fest, Trunk or Treats. Coffee with a Cop is going to be happening on September 28th, so something anyone can go by to Avery Church and have coffee with a cop. The students that were there also reported that there is more of a sense of normalcy back at the school building this year after kind of adjusting back post-COVID last year, that many of the clubs are up and active, and they're really finding connections with their teachers and classmates. We also had a representative from Interval House there. They are trying to get more active and involved in the community. They are involved in 24 communities, and they want to make South Windsor someplace that they really become involved and invested in. The library was also there as well and reported that the downstairs is now open with its fresh new carpeting in the Children's Center, and the children's programs will be back up and running for October, and they're offering a variety of programs, whether they're recorded, virtual, and in person, so something for everyone.
Wow, that's a lot of reports. Thank you so much. I have to say, I did watch that throw ball. That's an amazing sport. It's like volleyball, although you don't hit the ball, you hold the ball, and then you gotta throw the ball. It's really kind of interesting to watch, and it's great because you don't have to hit the ball or anything like that. It's great. It really is exciting. Thank you, Councilor Evans. Councilor Paterna.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to remind everyone for the Economic Development Commission, we're discussing the tax assessment agreement for 150 Sullivan Avenue. And just to remind you that that was a unanimous vote that evening in support of that tax agreement by the Economic Development Commission. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or reports? Not hearing any or seeing any, we'll be moving on to item number 10, which is reports from committees. Any of the committees? Councilor Evans.
Can I just ask if Council Paterna was going to report on Park and Rec facilities? Okay, I won't talk that one then. Okay, the mobile recording group met separately. We all met with Mr. Scott Roberts and looked into the recording devices that are going to be offered to boards and commissions for their meetings. So a couple of years ago, the council, just to refresh memory, we had set a goal to broaden the exposure of our meetings, our boards and commissions by recording them so that the community had more access to what was happening with our town meetings. We brought 3 on board, and then COVID hit. Everyone went on board, went online. And since after that, we had never continued to roll out that required video recording. So this is our solution to bringing more boards and commissions on and offering a more adaptable option for video recording. So it is I know that Mr. Roberts has it here tonight. It is a phone with an app that attaches to a camera with a pedestal, tripod, thank you, that can be taken to meetings. So it would be the responsibility of the recording person or the chair of the committee, the commission, the board, to take to their meeting, put the card in, press the button, it would record, and then that could be dropped off and uploaded by our IT department, so it will be put online after the meeting was done. It was a very affordable option, allows people to video record where they feel comfortable, whether it's at the Wapping building, in one of our meeting rooms, really gives some variety of where people can be able to hold their meetings, and still for us to be able to have our video recordings and the community be able to see what's happening in our boards and commissions. So I know I have seen it, Councilor Campbell saw it as well. I think it's a great option. I'd like to move forward with it if we can, if the council is comfortable with that. And my recommendation is that that group meet again and look at which groups we want to bring on next. Because I think rather than starting everyone out at once, that maybe we add 2 or 3 more, look at the schedule, what's the best way to make that work, and slowly bring them on board. And I don't know if Councilor Gamble has anything else to add.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I agree. I took a look at it. It's very simple to use. One thing I would suggest is that, we do want to roll this out, but at some point, we are going to be doing this for a number of different boards and commissions, and we will need a second one. So I would recommend that we actually get both at once, because not necessarily for right up front, but for the off chance that one is not returned in time or something, and you need to get one for another meeting, and it's not there, it's still in somebody's car or something like that. It's a very inexpensive option, and I think it makes sense just to have a second one. So that would be my only recommendation, is we get 2, just to get them and be done. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a line item in the IT budget this will be coming out of, Mr. Roberts, so.
In the cost of one, do you have the cost of one?
It's about $480 per unit, and that includes the tripod, the phone, which is being repurposed, we're recycling, right? The camera itself, and the carrying case.
And so this will be used down in, if you don't mind me asking, this will be used down in the sprinkler room or the Madden room or in any of our public buildings where there's
any of our public buildings, like if you have a meeting at the old Wapping School or something, like you bring the camera there to the cafeteria, the classroom, and set it up there. If you have a meeting at, I guess, sprinkler room, there's no video in there, right? Yeah, right. Exactly, something like that. Yep.
Okay. And how about for the Public Building Commission down at the Board of Ed? Do they have a live recording? They only have audio, correct? Okay. So Public Building Commission could also. Okay.
Yeah.
Any of our boards and commissions.
Exactly,
Really,
and
anyway.
it's a USB chargeable battery, so it never runs out of battery. It can be recharged if the battery does run out. You can just plug it directly into the wall and use it on the outlet for that meeting. So it's
Great.
It's pretty.
And the training goes with it, right?
There's a little sheet of paper with how to do it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Laminated.
Any other comments, Councilor Evans?
I was just going to ask if the council is comfortable with the 3 of us then meeting, finding a time to meet again, even with Mr. Robertson, trying to figure out when is the best time to, or what are the best boards or commissions to move forward with this as our next step and bring that back to the council?
Absolutely. Is there a consensus for them to meet again? Any comments? Thumbs up? Do you want to speak about it first?
Can I just make a
Okay,
comment?
go ahead.
Thank you. Just want to make a comment. I'm on board with having another meeting and all that. I would just suggest that as you roll out this event, this new process, that we start out with the boards and committees that volunteer to participate in this. While the equipment seems fairly simple to use, there could be a learning curve for some of the users, and possibly a comfort level of using technology and having recording. So at this onset, I would just suggest going on a voluntary basis.
And we have a consensus then for them to move forward? Yes? Thumbs up? Thumbs up? Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Evans. Councilor Gamble? Councilor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm reporting on the Park and Rec Facilities Planning Committee. So just to give you an update, two things are happening. One is that we are making plans for a temporary home for the Park and Recreation Department at Old Orchard Hill. So that'll be phase one. And then we're looking at some other sites in town, and those sites probably going to wind up with two potential sites. We'd like to host a public community forum and look at both sites, have people give some input, have some design drawings there so people could see what the building would look like and what would be included in there. And that's our plan for the fall, so we can get some community feedback.
Thank you, Councilor Paterno. Anyone else have reports on committees? Not seeing any, we'll be moving on. Item number 11, to the consent agenda. There is no first reading. There is a second reading. Councilor Evans.
Motion to approve item 11B1 through 11B2 as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Moving on to item 11C, there is no miscellaneous. And 12, unfinished business. 12A is a resolution approving a tax assessment agreement with 150 Sullivan Avenue LLC. Councilor Paterna, and it is our Exhibit A and Exhibit A1. And Mr. Maniscalco, you'll be commenting on this, please, after. Councilor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution approving a tax assessment agreement with 150 Sullivan LLC, excuse me. Whereas a request for tax abatement has been received from 150 Sullivan LLC for property located at 150 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, and whereas the Town of South Windsor's tax partnership program established pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 12-65B is intended to encourage the development and expansion of quality businesses in town through tax and other economic incentives, and is designed to retain and attract businesses that will generate substantial additional tax revenues and employment opportunities for the town while providing quality goods and services. And whereas the Economic Development Commission meeting held on July 27th, 2022, the commission reviewed and recommended that a tax assessment agreement be offered to 150 Sullivan LLC. And whereas the town manager recommends, pursuant to said program, that a tax assessment agreement be offered to 150 Sullivan LLC as an incentive to invest an estimated $2.25 million in total cost to construct 3 commercial buildings in 3 phases in South Windsor. The land and building improvements collectively referred to as real property. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council is pleased to offer a tax assessment agreement between the town and 150 Sullivan LLC, reducing the amount of the estimated real property assessment by 10% for the first year, 10% for the second year, 7% for the third year, 7% for the fourth year, 6% for the fifth year, 5% for the 6th year, 5% for the 7th year, with an estimated assessment reduction of approximately $787,500 total over the 7 years, commencing with the grand list following the date of certificate of occupancy being issued for the real property. Provided, however, that if such assessment is changed by any future town revaluation, the new assessed value of the real property shall be reduced by the percentage applicable to the year within the 7-year period such assessment is changed. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer to 150 Sullivan LLC is conditioned upon 150 Sullivan LLC, 1, meeting the estimated $2.25 million construction cost figure and agreeing to the estimated assessment figure, and 2, continuing to pay the real estate taxes on the facility for a minimum of 10 years from the date of the certificate of occupancy being issued. If 150 Sullivan LLC fails to meet either of these conditions, 150 Sullivan LLC shall refund the town of South Windsor all of the tax benefit reductions it has received. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council's offer is contingent upon the execution of a written agreement by 150 Sullivan LLC reflecting the terms set forth in the resolution and such other terms as the town may require.
Is there a second? And discussion, please. Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you. I know Mr. Tarsinis is here, and he took the time out tonight to come as well. I'll give him a chance to speak just briefly. The basis or basic thought for the abatement is the easiest way to think about it is we've really looked at abating the 50% of the value of that 7-year period. So, you know, overall, I think currently, when you look at the piece of property as it stands now, we're collecting about $9,269. With the work that Mr. Tarsinis is going to do, we would be collecting about $53,220, and we would be abating approximately $23,000 over that 7-year period of time. Essentially, he would be receiving about $186,000, as well as the town would be getting $186,000. So I know, given the climate today with the economy and inflation and costs and everything else, in order for him to get this project going and get it off the ground, he does need the help from the town to make sure he can afford the cost of construction and everything else. And I believe one of the major points, and Councilor Paterna can follow up with this as well, that we, during the conversation with economic development, he said he does plan or intend to pass on some of the savings on his taxes to some of his tenants as well. So once he's able to get the property built, he'll be passing some of those savings along to them as well. So that'll be good overall.
Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Yeah, I think there are two important points here. One is the developer is making a statement that he will, in order to attract business, will actually pass on some of these savings in terms of the rental costs for companies coming in, businesses coming in. That's important. Second thing is, we know this developer. He builds a quality development. He's built in this town already. He maintains the property once he builds it. So this is a win-win situation for us. I think we've got a quality builder who's come in, who's willing to pass on savings to new businesses, and I think this is a appropriate effort to help him out to stimulate the economic development. Thank you.
Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. Maniscalco, when you talked about the numbers, about 87,000 and the numbers, I'm not understanding those numbers compared to what I see here on the resolution where it says approximately $787,000 over 5. Is that which is he getting in abatement?
So the numbers on the resolution are associated with the assessment. That's the value. The numbers I talked to you about afterwards are the actual revenue collected in tax dollars.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. And then I don't know if Mr. Tarsinis wants to just say a few words, just real briefly, I'm sure.
Good evening. Turn your microphone on, please. Just there's a button down in the middle at the bottom of the base. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for affording me the opportunity to come here. As Mike Maniscalco talked about, the savings would be passed on to small businesses, because that's primarily what I deal with. Small mom and pop businesses looking to come to town. And we're in a little bit of a unique situation, being that on Sullivan Place down the street, I had a similar situation. Of course, it was a little different in percentages. I think it was 50% of the building for a 5-year period. But nonetheless, no, that property was for sale for a very long time. Those of you who've been in town for a while. And it was $5,800, I believe, was the tax revenue. And now we're up to $71,000 just for my end of it. The third building, 915 Sullivan, is expiring this year, so that's going to generate another $10,000 or so, and that's all exclusive of personal property tax. So, you know, one of the things that kind of reflected with me at the Tax Economic Development Board meeting was, you know, a nice lady said to me, she goes, well, Phil, you know, what do I say when I go to the supermarket and somebody talks about a tax abatement? Why are you giving tax abatements? So I explained, and others did as well, that the failure to understand is this: the taxes are the taxes. This is the increase that we're looking to phase in. There is no deduction or some type of an award to the developer in regards to what's existing. So this is only incrementally increasing the taxes and giving a little bit of a break during that incremental increase, which I will then in turn pass on either through rent deductions or also interior build-outs. You know, you have some tenants, retail businesses, for example, a lot of them, their build-out is not very involved. It's an open space, you know, you have your typical restroom, storage area in the back, things of that nature. Then you get into a medical facility where you have plumbing in every room. You have HVAC now in every room, switching for electrical, outlets, green wire for grounding anywhere that, you know, there's patients within a certain height. So by doing this, you're really, the town's helping to infuse that small business capital needed to bring these businesses. And I'm proud to say, I've had businesses from Manchester, Enfield, and even one from Winstead come into South Windsor. And it's a real great town, full of great people. The staff's been great, and it's just a pleasure to deal with everyone. And the fact that my office has been in town for 3 decades gives a little personal involvement for me. It's not, I'm not just some developer looking to build something to have an ROI. I can care less about that. What I care about is building a project that can accommodate some great businesses, create some employment, right? And something that when I drive to my office every day and I drive by it, is something that we're proud of, not only, you know, from a development and management company standpoint, but also from the town too, to play a small role and help create something special for the town. So that's basically it. And I can go real quick through the, like to see the site plan.
I believe they've got the site plan in their packet, so.
Yeah, we have it in our packet. Yep. Could I ask you, sir, one,
Sure.
on your one development that I'm referring to, that really nice one down the road there on Sullivan Avenue, when was that, what year was that was approved and you were giving a tax abatement on that one?
Yeah, that was, I think 2014 was the first CO.
Okay.
That was Prime Healthcare. If I recall correctly, that was a 50% abatement on the structures only.
Okay.
For a 5-year period.
And how much of your development is full right now?
I have one vacancy, 960 square feet in front, and I have one client, due to staffing, a very small office, Transforce, actually, who that moved out. You know, one of the big things we're encountering, besides everything else, is staff. I mean, unbeknownst to the property manager or the landlord, right? But businesses, think about it. You have, you know, a restaurant or any type of business, and you can't get staff at your existing location. I mean, you're certainly, the last thing on your mind is probably opening a second, right? And, you know, opening a new business too as well. So besides all the other kind of factors out there and interest rates rising and things of that nature, staffing is a problem for business.
Right.
You know, commercial properties really, you know, over the last 5 years, you know, we had the reval in Enfield. I have some properties there in Stafford and other parts of Connecticut, and it was kind of flat. But I know industrial and residential obviously are really excelling. So I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you know, you have the staffing issues, you have the interest rates rising, and you have all these factors kind of coming together to create this kind of storm. I don't want to call it a perfect storm, but a storm nonetheless, kind of hampering, you know, retail, office, you know, and we all know with COVID what happened with office. I'm a big proponent that I think offices should come back. Not every office, but a lot of
What I'm trying to
offices.
get at is you worked with the town maybe 10 years ago.
Yes.
For your first development there, and just now, you'd like have one vacancy
Yeah.
out of the 10 years, so it's
Yeah.
only,
Well,
it's
2000,
it's proven
2014.
itself
Yeah.
to be very successful. So what you're trying to accomplish here is very similar to what you presently have, and we know the success of the first one is
Very
what I'm saying.
similar, yes. Yeah. In layout and also in function.
Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you touched on some of my concerns. You know, staffing is a problem. People are not in their offices right now. We do have a couple buildings that were built recently that are sitting empty, which I think is a concern to some of our citizens that we're losing land for empty buildings. Do you have tenants already identified for what you plan on building?
No, I don't. I have interest. I don't have any signed leases. I'm considering putting up a building on spec, which I don't know if, for those of you that know, that's a big, enormous risk. You have to cross-collateralize and or pay for it yourself, which I don't frankly have. It'd be nice if I had that money, but I don't. So the bank would require very high, either a cross-collateralization with other real estate or real property, and or a very low loan-to-value, 50% or greater, as far as what they will loan for that project. So it's such a beautiful corner. There's a signalized intersection there. There's even a CT Transit bus stop. A lot of frontage. There's 5,800 cars a day on Rye Street, plus Sullivan Avenues. I think it was around 20,000 each direction in that particular area. So I really feel confident that anybody looking to open a business that's looking to come to South Windsor, I mean, that's just a terrific spot. And it's really going to act as a service center for that part of town, because if you think about it, there's really nothing around that part of town for Old Main Street or anywhere in that vicinity to kind of service those residents and the travelers. So this we try to help fill that void. So.
Thank you.
Councilor Kazakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could you just give us a little back history on this? When was this first approved, the site plan approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission?
I think it was 2018. It was a little different approval. The buildings are kind of following the road. Just last March, I actually went back to Planning and Zoning and turned the two front buildings.
Yeah, where you opened it up there in the front.
No, I don't. On one of my maps, it had an old layout. Oh, with the old layout?
Yep.
Yeah, so these buildings would follow the road, so in kind of living kind of this similar development down the street, I know that kind of hampers the visibility of the third building. So by turning those front buildings, you kind of increase visibility, and it actually working better with traffic flow and if and when there is a drive-through right there. Drive-through there, so by turning these buildings also, the queuing and everything just kind of worked out better, as well as the visibility. So that was just this March.
Okay. And so it was first approved in 2018. Put it bluntly, what's taking so long to get this going?
Well, I mean, COVID certainly didn't help. I mean, that was a little over 2 years. The only thing COVID helped with was the first 2 months. I mean, it's the only really time I slept well, because I knew I wasn't going to get any calls from businesses. Nonetheless, all kidding aside, COVID put a hamper on that, and still is with the office market. That's a big, that's a substantial percentage of what these occupants could be. Medical, business office, things of that nature. So insurance offices. So until this whole work from home hybrid type of thing gets sorted out, that was kind of an after effect of COVID as well. Restaurants, obviously, we've all heard of the challenges they've had. And just in general, I mean, COVID was, a 2+ year hamper on it. So if you think about it, it was about a year and a half, 2 years that we were running full speed. And
No, that sounds good. So is,
and I was finishing up 915 Sullivan, which that was phase 2 of Down the Street. That was 2017.
and I'm sure the increasing cost of construction materials has a.
I'm not breaking any records to start right now, if that's what you're asking me, sir, yes.
I understand. So you're primarily marketing just to offices, or are you looking at other retail?
All general commercial, retail, offices, restaurants. I had a great use. I wanted 6,000 feet. They were going to utilize the drive-through and staffing. I said, you know, we live in Hamden. You know, what's gonna happen if we can't get staff? I mean, we're now, it's not like we're a hop, skip, and a jump away. And, we like you, that I brought them actually to Mexicali and to other places, and they talked to some of my clients. Everything went well, and they just said, you know, we like everything, you know, let's see what happens with staffing, and maybe it's not a dead stick, but for now it's, you know, they put the stop on it, so, just to give you an example, it's what I'm dealing with.
Are you primarily trying to market to a single occupant for the buildings, one tenant, or are you trying to gear towards breaking up the building into multiple tenants, multiple
So just a
uses?
very preliminary architectural with 7 units, but yeah, that could be 2, it could be 7, it could be 10, I mean, it's.
So you're open to?
I'm open to whatever, yeah, and what I basically do is do a layout of some basic plumbing, bathrooms, HVAC, electrical services, water services, and then I don't put in demising walls. So this way, somebody comes and says, oh, you know, if I had the unit done, let's say it was 1,250 square feet, and they wanted, you know, 1,450 or 1,600, and, you know, by not having the demising walls in, it gives you that flexibility to try to accommodate and really tailor a build. And that's part of what this comes into, you know, doing the build out. Because I do construction, I have people that I work with and subcontractors, so I can literally tailor make someone the exact spot, exact space they want it, with the flow they want, with the exact room sizes, so they're not paying rent on excess space or space that doesn't flow the way they would like it to flow. And part of that is turnkey space delivery, which a lot of people, you know, kind of shy away from, because if that deal does go bad, not only do you lose the lease, now you lose the build out, and potentially you have to demo the build out, because 9 times out of 10 it's not going to be an exact fit for another business. So.
And one last question. I think I saw in the narrative letter that was provided for the record that the land was previously zoned industrial but rezoned to commercial.
Yes, so general commercial.
General commercial. So essentially trading potential warehouse distribution, warehouse use instead for a commercial development where it wouldn't generate as much that kind of level of traffic.
So. In what sense are you talking, more from a revenue standpoint or traffic?
Traffic impact on the neighborhood.
Yeah, so traffic impact during the approvals, I had to hire a traffic engineer, of course. We did traffic studies, certain times of the day, weekends, queuing levels, things of that nature. And I think that corner lot, trying to get a distribution center where trailer trucks trying to get in and out of there, would probably be a problem. It's not a very big lot. So as far as the traffic goes, I mean, you know, in the signalized entrance, on Sullivan, it would only be a right in, right out, and the main entrance would actually be on Rye Street, would be the full access entrance. So that was our mitigation for traffic.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to say, I'll be in support of this abatement. I think any opportunity to expand our commercial holdings in town is good. I've always been a proponent of balanced growth. We do really good in expanding our industrial uses. We're doing pretty good at expanding our residential uses. An opportunity to expand our commercial uses here is I think, a win in our books. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor King?
The only question I had, and this is based kind of off of both of my fellow counselors, is in regards to the marketing. For a number of obvious reasons, I would love to diversify the businesses that we have. What resources do you use in regards to getting the word out on the street, whether it's to Greater Hartford Commerce, whether it's to Black Business Network, whether it's to Hispanic business networks, that, hey, for your small business, come to South Windsor because we have a community base for you?
Sure. No, that's, and thank you for bringing up that point. Firstly, I can tell you personally, I'm involved with Trinity Health in New England, and I'm on their regional mission committee.
Okay.
That's one of the things we focus on is diversity, living our core values, our mission throughout all 5 hospitals. So I am in touch with that. Now, in regards to marketing, I'm a licensed broker.
Okay.
It's on multiple listing. I also have a pro account on Crexy. I also have the silver grade account. I don't know how they think they just give you grades so they can charge you more for LoopNet. Okay. But nonetheless, that gives you a wide array of potential clients, diversity, and there have been several kind of interest from inner city folks that are looking to come in and come to do business in South Windsor. So it's something that I'm in tremendous favor of. I think it's retail, office, okay, restaurants, diversity, all works together. Okay, it all works together. It all helps drive business services, and one kind of feeds off the other. So anything that I can do, or if you have any ideas to further that mission, please, let me know, or let Mike know, and Mike can certainly get a hold of me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Kubasky? You're good? I just have a request. Whatever restaurant that you get in there, could you just make sure that they could be open later at night? Because everything here in South Windsor closes at like 9 o'clock, and you can't go out for a coffee after a meeting, or we used to have a few places that we could go. They're no longer here, but it would be great to be able to go out for a coffee or a drink or a little, I don't drink, but coffee and water, which is me, but little hors d'oeuvres or something after a meeting, because you didn't get to eat dinner, so
So
something
I'm
like that.
working on an American-type cuisine restaurant with a lounge that would probably be open a little later, maybe even for breakfast, I don't know, every day or just on a weekend, but
That'd be great. That'd be great.
I think so. I think
Thank
so
you.
there with a patio and everything. I think so.
Well, thank you for coming and presenting this to us this evening and speaking with us on this. It looks it's very exciting. It is. It's very exciting. The only question that I have for Mr. Maniscalco that I just want to clarify is that the tax abatement is on the construction of these buildings, correct?
It's on
He
the
said that?
improvement to the property, so it's whatever improvement to the property is being made. That's how tax abatements work.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know. What? Who? Oh, Counselor Kubasky.
No, that was going to be my question, but I believe it was covered a little bit earlier. And then Councilor Lidecker also asked one of my questions, so I was all set.
You're all set? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. And is there any other discussion on this? Not seeing any? All those in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. And now we're moving on to new business. Deputy Mayor King, please, 13A.
13A, thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution appointing Amanda Poma as Clerk of Council. Be resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby appoints Amanda Poma as Clerk of the Council for a term ending November 5th, 2024, to fill the unexpired term of Scott Nolan. Be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council approves a salary of $54,000 and benefits associated with the non-bargaining unit members' fringe benefit description for fiscal year 2021-22 to 2023-24.
Is there a second? Second. Well, thank you. My goodness, we're all excited with that second. I love that. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. 13B, resolution setting a time and a place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on updates to the Health Department Ordinance, Chapter 50, Article 5-10. Counselor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets October 3rd, 2022 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on proposed updates to the Health Department Ordinance, Chapter 50, Articles 5 through 10.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Moving on to item 13C, and this is a discussion item to opt out of Public Act 21-29 relating to requirements for allowance of accessory apartments in single-family zones. And staff employee Michelle Leip to be present, and we have Exhibit B in our packet, and she is our planner, right? Our planner. There you go.
Good evening, and thank you. I am here tonight, Michelle Leip, with the Chairman, Bart Pasiconis of Planning and Zoning, and Stephanie Dexter, one of our members. I am here representing the Planning and Zoning tonight related to the opt-out request for the Public Act 2129 as it relates to accessory apartments. I did provide you with a memo kind of trying to give you an overview of a little bit what we're dealing with here Last July, Public Act 2129 put a lot of new laws in place. It's particularly related to Planning and Zoning Commission, and we've been kind of working through those over the last year, and that brings us here tonight related to the accessory apartments. In a nutshell, what 2129 did was require all towns in the state of Connecticut to allow, by right, accessory apartments in your single-family residential zones. What the law went ahead and did, and it kind of put the parameters as to what an accessory apartment would look like, what the size was, and how it would be administered. It went on to allow towns to go ahead and look at their own accessory apartment regulations or create an accessory apartment regulation and choose to opt out of the criteria of the law if they so chose. In order to opt out of the law as was written, you needed to have a 2/3 majority approval by your Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as a 2/3 majority by your town council or your body in charge. Our planning and zoning over the last year, we studied the accessory apartment regulation. I'll get into it just briefly. They have adopted a new accessory apartment regulation as well as chosen to opt out. And now we're in front of the town council to let you know what we've done and ask you to follow suit and opt out as well. So in preparation for tonight, what I did provide for you is kind of a matrix that kind of, if you fast forward to the matrix on accessory dwelling units. South Windsor, for the 35 years I've been here, for 30 of them, we've allowed accessory apartments or in-law apartments. Over the years, I think we have something like 160 apartments on the books. Not all of them were created through the in-law or accessory apartment, but they are apartments that do currently exist in town. When we had in-law apartments, we used to have them on a 5-year basis. You had to renew them every 5 years, and eventually the idea is that they would go back to a single-family house and the apartment would be taken away. An accessory apartment, something that was used a little bit less frequently, was a permanent change to a house and allowed an apartment to be put into a home, could be sold or resold into the future with an apartment in it. My experience over the years is our in-law apartments are very popular. People love to be able to accommodate their mother, their father, their daughter, whatever, but they never went away. So we found a lot of houses being sold with in-law apartments, and it became somewhat of a zoning tracking problem, if you will. We readily approved these things. They weren't, they didn't get denied if you met the criteria. They just really became more of a tracking problem into the future. So the commission, we kind of put together all the data for the commission to take a look at. And I think at the end of the day, I think we realized that accessory apartments are good for our community. They've given option to people to take a big home and maybe carve out a spot, or else to add on to a home and when necessary to do that. So we decided to eliminate the in-law apartment concept and just go with the accessory apartment concept. We wrote the regulations to pretty much mirror what the state asked us to do, with a couple of minor changes, and I'm going to point those out to you. One of the things the state said was that in an apartment, you don't have to be owner-occupied, either the apartment or the house. Planning and Zoning Commission felt that that was still something they wanted to have an owner-occupancy requirement. So we still have that in our regulations.
Michelle, you're doing your grid right here now.
I'm kind of looking at the comparison chart.
So if everybody could get on that grid so we can find out where you're referring to?
Yeah, so I'm talking about what we adopted in our accessory apartment. So we eliminated in-law apartments. We just are going with an accessory apartment. The 1,000 square feet, which is what the state suggested we allow, is what we put into our regulations, so maximum 1,000 square foot apartment. We allow accessory apartments, something attached to the house will just be a zoning permit. You'll come into the town planning department, you meet all the criteria, the zoning officer will sign off on it. If you want to do a detached accessory apartment, that means, taking a building, putting it in the middle of your backyard, that will require planning and zoning approval. It is not a special exception approval. Again, it would still be a zoning permit with the Planning and Zoning Commission. We did put 2 criteria in that the state didn't say we could do, if you will. We put a setback requirement of 30 feet from a property line. Under our current zoning, you would be either 10 or 20 feet if you were to just apply a side setback. I think the commission felt 30 feet, having it a little bit further away, was appropriate for a dwelling unit. We also put in a requirement that some screening or some landscaping could be required if you had appropriate that, a neighbor was right there and you wanted to provide some screening of a neighbor. Again, that would be reviewed by a site plan by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The only other, I'm just trying to think.
I don't see that 30 feet, 10 feet thing that you were referring to.
That would be related to a setback requirement. You'd have to really know how the setbacks work in it. But we talk about, that we do allow for more of a setback. I'd have to take you to the regulation and point it to you.
I
yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
We did make it so that these could not be rental units. You know, Airbnb is something that we wanted to be on guard for. So there is a provision here that they cannot be rented and they cannot be turned into condominiums. And what we do have is we have every 4 years, we have a reaffirmation process. So every 4 years, a letter goes out to anybody that has one of these apartments to say, do you still live in the apartment or the dwelling unit? If it's no longer in existence, then we advise them how to go about getting it off their tax records, because again, the assessor will carry anything on the assessment. If it's not being used, we want to make sure people know how to get rid of it. So where we are today is the Planning and Zoning has adopted this new regulation. My office is in the process right now of informing anybody that had a previous in-law apartment that these in-law apartments are now converted into what we call an accessory apartment. They will no longer have to renew these every 5 years. There'll be none of that. What they will have to do is every 4 years make sure we'll send out a letter. They'll reaffirm whether they're living in the apartment or in the unit. And we'll also give them information on how to go about removing the apartment if they no longer want it as part of the house and they don't want to have to pay taxes on it. Speaking with Mary Huda, the assessor, this will not impact anybody's assessment at this time, the conversion of these in-law apartments into accessory apartments. It's just going to be kind of a wash, if you will. Your record will now reflect an accessory apartment. If you were able to get a larger one, because we did allow larger in-law apartments, they are under the regulation. Those have been accounted for and they're considered non-conforming to the regulation, so they're fine. They don't have to be reduced in size or anything like that. Just anything moving forward would be limited to the 1,000 square feet. So I think the commission, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think what we've kind of felt, we were meeting the intent of the law. We certainly, we have been a community that's welcomed apartments for a very long time. I think a lot of, I'm kind of surprised how many communities don't have accessory apartments. It was really kind of a shock to me, but there are a lot of communities that don't allow them. So I think we've been ahead of the curve on that for a long time, and I know it certainly has been a service that people have taken advantage of. Like I said, we have over 100 that we've registered over the years that I can think of. And moving forward, this will give people more opportunity as they want. So what we'd like the councils to do is first to, make sure you're aware and understand what the commission's done, but also any questions you have, but also support us in opting out of this public act based on what we've done to date. And with that, I'd have Bart or Stephanie.
Well, before we go to Bart, can we ask if anyone has any questions of you? Sorry, Bart. Any questions of Michelle? Councilor Leidecker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the things you mentioned, do you think you're meeting the intent of the law? Has this been reviewed by the town attorney to make sure that what the law states conforms with some of the changes you guys have made?
I think that by opting out, we don't have to meet the law. I think that's what we could have opted out and said we don't want apartments at all. So I think we as a group feel like we're meeting the law, the intent of the law by allowing it, making it easier for people to do it. I don't think there's a legal bar that we need to meet.
I think my concern is a legal opinion may be, and maybe this goes to Mr. Maniscalco. I mean, if we're dealing with opting out of the laws and there's something different in what you guys have established versus what you think you're meeting the intent of the law, I don't know if it's something that should be run by the town attorney as to what the draft is compared to what the language is of the statute as to the opt-out.
Well, we've adopted it, so we don't have a draft. We've adopted the regulation. I mean, if he could take a look at the regulation and point out where we know we aren't meeting the law. I mean, I think that's what I've tried to do in this chart here. I mean, I'd be glad to get a town attorney opinion, but I think the whole idea of the opt-out is it's the planning and zoning and the town council's ability to opt out of the law.
And I guess my concern is we opt out, we change regulations, and somehow there's a denial of some sort of accessory apartment that comes in versus a site plan. The last thing I need is additional litigation for the town, but I don't know. I don't know what the specifics enough are of it.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be your prerogative as the council if you want a legal review of it to make sure that you're not going to get in trouble.
Sure.
We can certainly do that.
I mean, I'm only one of 9
But I'm looking around the table.
I always
don't know.
appreciate when we start talking interpretations of statutes. That's always where I fall, but I'm one of 9. That was my only question. Thank you.
Any other questions for Councilor Kozakowski?
I guess first I want to address Councilor Leidecker's concern. I think if we were to go through the exercise of having that, the currently adopted zoning regulations, right? Having that reviewed by by our town attorney, the exercise would only be, I think, required or advantageous if we were actually going to abide by the state statute PA 2129. But the ask here is to opt out of all the provisions related to accessory housing. As Mrs. Leip said, some of the requirements in the Public Act were followed, right? Like the size and other, but there were some provisions that were not being followed. So I think with the opt-out, which is clearly permissible in the act, there's no additional legal review required for that. And I just want to clarify with Michelle that so the ask is to opt out of every provision related to accessory housing, correct?
Correct, in lieu of the adopted regulation.
Okay, and in lieu of the adopted regulation, okay. I mean, I think that's a good idea because I know while some of the regulations are being followed as required by the Public Act, if the regulations were to change at some point in the future, I would think having opted out of all of them provides that kind of legal buffer from not complying with the statute.
And I would add, the statute does require action by January 1st, 2023, if you're going to opt out. So in other words, if a community decides not to opt out, you don't have an opportunity after January 1st to opt out.
Yeah, so I think opting out of all of them would be good for us, just because I think any of these types of land use decisions, I don't think when the state provided this Public Act, they're assuming a one-size-fits-all for all our communities. So I would think, I would prefer and suggest that we rely on our plan of conservation and development to be our model for our zoning regulations, and in this case, accessory housing. So,
thank you, Councilor Kozakowski. Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm neither an attorney to my right or a town planner from another town, so I don't have the background that these two people.
Throw 'em a rescue
so my
ring.
question will be a little bit more basic. I apologize. I mean, I tried to read this and I really tried to understand it, but when you're talking about opting out and what are we opting out? I mean, could you just make this accessory apartment 101 for me and all others who are not town planners by trade? Like what is this? What is the state statute saying that they want us to that they're doing and we're opting out of? Just
one example is the state statute says if you create an accessory apartment, you can't require the owner to live in the house or the apartment. You can't have that requirement. Well, we want to have that requirement because we feel that it gives us some control of our neighborhoods if we have someone living in the house and renting the apartment. That's one example. The state says that you can't charge for sewer fees, like a new sewer hookup fee. Well, when you add a bedroom on to your house, we charge a sewer fee. We still intend to do that. So I guess my point is we've met the intent in that we're allowing accessory apartments. We've made the process very simple. It's a simple zoning permit. It's not a special exception that goes to a public hearing and requires you to notify neighbors. We didn't build that kind of a process here. We tried to make it simple, which the state asks us to increase housing by increasing accessory apartments. So
gotcha.
I think our feeling was we met a lot of what the state wanted us to do. We're just not meeting it exactly, so we don't want to be our hands.
So
tied.
this is not a situation where people are going to be starting to drive tiny houses up onto other people's properties and say, I need a special planning and zoning, you know.
I'm saying 1,000 square feet is going to be allowed as a detached accessory dwelling, so you could see that, yes.
Has this happened in other towns where people, like, I don't think Connecticut is on the forefront of this, for example, but, you know, are other communities experiencing a growth in these kind of detached accessory apartments based on this regulation?
I have not heard an incredible growth as a result of this, no.
All right.
No, I think most planners would say that, you know, a lot of communities have allowed it on some level, and this is just kind of fine tuning it and providing more opportunity, but I'm not sure this will be the next boom of housing.
All right, well, thank you for your patience with me.
That's fine. Opt-out is not really anything we've
Deputy
ever really
Mayor-
had to deal with before.
Thank you, Councilor Gamble. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I remember when this first came out over a year ago, and I remember the back and forth at the time with planning and zoning, and I appreciate the fact you guys worked through it. So I remember sitting in the back and like, oh my gosh, and then the idea was like, why don't we just opt out, let's discuss it and figure out if we want to. And I respect the fact that you guys did that. Now this has finally come to fruition. I'm excited about it because as someone, when we, Yes, when I did first move to Connecticut, there was an in-law spot. And I can't begin to tell y'all, having family in Philadelphia that would drive up to New Hampshire, I didn't have to see my in-laws. That's off the record, of course. But it was a separate spot, and I can't say enough how it was, here's the key, when you guys get here, whether we're here or not, and it was one of the best things that I'd ever seen before. And at first, when this first came out, I thought we were going to go against it and like opt in everything that they said that they didn't want, which I thought was a terrible idea. So I'm glad that you guys had the foresight to say, you know what, let's opt out, figure out what works best for South Windsor, because as my fellow counselor said, what works in South Windsor may not work in East Windsor, may not work in East Hartford, but it works for us here, especially from a family standpoint. So I'm all about what you guys did here, and I'm thankful that you guys worked it through amongst each other to make it happen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. So this is an opportunity also for the accessory apartments for folks, the young folks, that's it, thank you, that was young professionals that may want to stay at home, that may want to have an accessory apartment, have their folks still live in the main house and they can have their apartment on the side. When you talk about rent, that could be an internal thing within their own family, or even folks that may be retiring, or they give the main house to their kids and they can live in an accessory apartment and do their traveling and be snowbirds and go south and come back and do whatever they see fit to do without having to move somewhere else. I think it's a great idea. In the opting out, y'all did a great job, really, in looking at what meets the needs of South Windsor and working together on planning and coming up and controlling what we have within our boundaries. I think what I want to get to, or what I want to say, the opting out option was an option that the state had offered the towns. And that was, I'm going to have Councilor Gamble understand this a little bit, help him out to understand it, but the opting out option was given by the state to the towns, and if we opt out, then we create our own zoning regulations, and we no longer have to follow the state law because we're opting out from following that. That's what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. Yes, by January 1st.
And it's
Yes.
a two-step process. It's not just your planning and zoning that can opt out. It's also your legislative body that has to as well. So there was
Right.
kind of that check and balance, so that if you had a radical planning and zoning that didn't want to do anything and your town council did, then you wouldn't
Right.
have the consensus.
Right. Well, I thank you for the hard work that you did in reviewing all of this and the time that I am. I'm looking right at them. Telling them to thank them for the hard work that you did and to take South Windsor in consideration and not just follow the flow of the state, but really look at what we have here within our community. And I thank you for that. And would you like to bring Bart up now, Mr. Pasconis?
Thank you, Bart Pasconis. Currently serve as the chairman for Planning and Zoning. This stimulation by the state to move in this direction was actually good for us, good for the people of South Windsor. We had already addressed the ability for people to have in-law apartments and accessory apartments. There's towns out there that didn't have that ability, but we provided it. But one of the shortfalls that I saw with the in-law apartments is they could have their separate apartment, kitchen, bedrooms, all that. But then when the person moved out and they weren't using it for that purpose anymore, they had to remove a kitchen, and that kitchen could have cost $20,000 or $30,000 to put in, and then they're supposed to just put it in the garage or something else. I always felt that it would be better if we gave that family who invested in South Windsor or in themselves in South Windsor, the ability to rent that out. You know, it makes sense. And having either the tenant be the one in the accessory apartment or the main apartment, it just keeps somebody there who has an interest in the apartment and just keeps the quality up. I was a landlord for a 3-family in Bristol, and since I did not live there, I lived in South Windsor. I didn't see everything that happened. I didn't know when somebody was doing drugs or selling drugs out of the place until the police came and arrested them or something, broke down the door, and that creates different issues. But having that provision, I think, is really worth opting out of the state regulations.
The provision requiring them to have to live there?
Yes.
Okay,
in
thank you.
Either or. And, you know, having the ability to get an income in these times, and that's important for people in being able to keep, hold on to their homes. So these are all good things, and I hope you look upon this positively and appreciate all your support now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Pasconis? Not hearing any, not seeing any. Is there any comments? None? Okay. And so this is a discussion item that you presented us to this evening, and you're looking for a resolution at our next meeting, ma'am?
That would be great. Yes.
That would be great. Thank you. And
think I
thank you for
provided
the
some
thorough
draft wording.
explanation and understanding this.
Yes.
And if any of the council members have any questions after tonight's meeting, they're more than welcome to contact you for clarification.
Sure. Yep. Be glad
Thank you
to.
so much.
Thank you.
And moving on, we have item 13D, a discussion item. Why is that? Mr. Maniscalco, can you present that discussion item 13D?
Certainly I can. That's related to the waiver of competitive bidding for the sidewalk here at Town Hall. As I reported to all of you earlier, we're in the process of redoing the parking lots here, as well as some of the sidewalks need to be renovated and redone and reworked. Our hope originally was that the contractor that we've awarded the bid to for doing the parking lots here was going to be able to also do this, the sidewalk areas that we found that were some problems. Unfortunately, some of the areas that we found need to be done in concrete, and the contractor that's doing the work on our parking lot out here does not do concrete work. He does asphalt work. So as a result, we have another contractor in town, Costa and Sons, that's been awarded another project that's working on some road work and sidewalk work in other areas. They're willing to do that work. But unfortunately, the work associated here at the town hall is over the $5,000 threshold. So in an effort to try to keep with our timeline and keep the project moving along, we're asking that you would waive competitive bidding so that way we can have Costas and Sons do that work for the town moving forward just with this project.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Maniscalco? Councilor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How do we know what price he's giving us then will be fair and reasonable? I mean, is it based on other projects that he's done for us that have come in at around the same price per foot, however you do concrete pricing?
Yeah, it's a similar pricing that he's giving us in the RFP that was awarded for the other.
That he won the bid for?
Yeah.
Is it a lot over 5,000?
I don't know what the total project cost is. Vanessa, do you know what it was? For the total project, for the sidewalk?
Jeff is here. We'll take
Yeah,
Jeff.
perfect.
Just turn on the microphone, please, Jeff. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
What was the total cost for the sidewalk?
The total cost for this sidewalk is a little bit over $10,000. So it is much above our $5,000 threshold, but not an expensive item in the scheme of things.
And how long would it take if you were to go out to RFP and get 3 bids in that whole process? That'd be like a month,
Talking
months
about
and months.
probably a couple months.
Yeah.
If we could get
And then
some-
now you're in winter time, and then
Yeah,
there's those issues.
I don't know if
so-
we could get somebody to do it before winter.
Right.
That's the problem.
I see the dilemma. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions in the discussion? Any questions for Mr. Jeff Folger? No. Yes, Jeff Doolittle. Sorry.
Right.
I don't know why I said that. Okay. No questions?
Different Jeff.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. And moving on to item E, Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution waiving the competitive bidding for concrete sidewalks at the Town Hall and other places in town. Whereas the town of South Windsor needs to install concrete sidewalks with curbing and bollards for the accessible parking spaces in front of the Town Hall, and this needs to be done before the Town Hall driveway and parking lot is repaved. And whereas the town's current concrete sidewalk contractor cannot do this work in the time frame needed and due to the complexity of this work, and whereas there is more concrete sidewalk installation and replacement work in South Windsor than our current sidewalk contractor can do, and whereas Costa & Son LLC is a local South Windsor contractor that has done other concrete sidewalk projects in and for the town and has provided a proposal to install the needed concrete sidewalks with curbing and bollards at the town hall at the time frame needed, and whereas Costa & Son LLC is interested in being another on-call concrete sidewalks contractor for the town, now therefore be it resolved that the town council finds it is in the town's best interest to waive competitive bidding for the installation of concrete sidewalks with curbing and bollards. You'll have to tell me what bollards are, Mr. Doolittle, so I get done. At the town hall and enter into the agreement with Costa & Son LLC for this work. Be it further resolved that Costa & Son LLC be accepted as another on-call sidewalk contractor for the town for the remainder of calendar year 2022. Be it further resolved that the town council authorizes the town manager to sign any agreement and other documents necessary to do this work.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion?
What are bollards?
Very simply, bollards are the steel posts in front of some parking spaces, and where they're needed here, these are going to be handicap accessible parking spaces. So we need to have the state sign there. So the bollard is going to go in front of the space with a sign in it, so that everybody knows it's a handicap parking space, and it keeps people from parking on the sidewalk and blocking the sidewalk.
Yes, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And if I could make a suggestion on this resolution, and I don't know where we stand on Mr. Maniscalco with this. The second paragraph of this resolution, whereas the town's current concrete sidewalk contractor cannot do this work in the time frame and needed and due to the complexity of this work, that's not an accurate statement, is it? I don't believe that is. And I'd rather not say something about the business, they're the contractor, that's untrue.
Why don't we just do a simple amendment, the town's current contractor, and that would change it, if that's acceptable.
You want to, how do you want to change it?
Just take out concrete sidewalk and just put current contractor,
Yeah.
because that more readily explains the situation.
Okay, there you go. Yes. Thank you. If everyone accepts that friendly amendment to that, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so we have a second? Yes? Yes, okay. Any other discussion? Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor King.
Madam Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to say, oddly enough, that I actually agree with Councilor Gamble in the sense that under any other circumstances, I would love to talk about more competitive bidding. I really can't stand the fact sometimes that I feel like give business away to people that just worked with us. I don't think that we expand, whether it's diversity-wise, whatever it might be. And so I agree that there are times, more often than not, I'd like to see this next calendar year that we have a lot more competitive bidding processes, regardless of kind of the situation. It seems like every time we come into one of these things, we're waiving the competitive bidding prices for some reason. And even though it might take a little bit of time, and I understand the fact that we're coming into the fall and everything like that, I would just like to say, I agree with this because of where we're coming into, but going forward, I would really like to see us have more competitive bidding and all those types of things, just so we can see what other businesses might be able to give us discounts or whatever else for the business that we have here in South Windsor. But I'm fine with this here.
Thank you. Councilor Gamble?
Thank you, and that makes me think of something else. Deputy Mayor King, could you actually provide some sort of report on how many times you actually go out to competitive bid? Because to me, it sounds like we're 0 for 3, right? You know, but we only hear about the times when we need to waive it, and it would be helpful to understand, like, it's 3 times out of 100, Councilor Gamble, or something like that, right?
Yeah, we actually bid out a lot of work.
Right.
And a lot of work goes out to RFP. All the road jobs that we have in town, all the bridge jobs that we've done in town, sidewalks on a regular basis. Like, we do bid out a lot. We're coming to you for waivers for specific reasons, because as you can see, there's a dilemma with this instance.
Right.
Last time we were here asking for a waiver because we had a sole source provider who only could provide a certain type of equipment. So there's specific reasons why we're coming to you for waivers. It's not just because it's quicker, easier, simpler.
No,
everything that we can, every time we can, we do bid it out when we have the ability to do so.
Right, and I don't disagree that the reasons that you
we can-
give us are valid reasons, but it would make me feel, and probably some of the other councils, better if we had a holistic view of, you know, it doesn't have to be a detailed report, but, you know.
For the last 12 months or something.
Last 12 months, like, you know, we went competitive bid for like $12 million, and you guys waived, you know, did a waiver for like $44,000.
Yeah.
You know, that
Could you send that to us in an email, Mr. Maniscalco?
Sure.
Answer that question for us. Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 13F, Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution 13F, resolution approving a refund of taxes to 27 South Windsor taxpayers. The total of said refund being $16,687.58. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a refund of property taxes to 27 South Windsor taxpayers. The total of said refunds being $16,687.58, and as more fully described on attachment Exhibit C. Motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. All those, any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. Moving on, 14, passage of ordinance. We don't have any this evening. Item 15 is public input on any matter. Public input for any other matter shall not exceed 30 minutes. When recognized by me, the speaker shall approach the lectern and give their name and their address. Speakers shall avoid personal attacks or impugning or alleging an improper motive to any person. The speaker may address the council on any item. The speaker shall limit their speaking time to 5 minutes. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council concerning any matter? Anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter? Going for a third time, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to anyone? Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Mary Etter, coming as director of the South Windsor Public Library, and it seems like a great night for thanks. So I thought that perhaps that would be the wind-up to the evening. As Councilor Evans alluded, we've had a lot going on at the library, particularly in the last month, inside and outside. Simultaneously, we've had the lower level being recarpeted, which is almost done, but we have about another third of the project to do. And we've been at the vortex of the projects outdoors with the parking lot, the drainage, the electrical power conduits for increased lighting in the parking lot, and the sidewalks and the the curbing and so forth. So while we have not been able to have a tremendous number of in-house programs for children or for others, we've had one heck of a touch a truck day going on pretty much the whole month. But we want to thank the incredible cooperation of the other departments in town and the vendors that we've been working with, who have been very sensitive to the needs of the activities that the library is promoting and has had going on in terms of what days the most obstructive, if you will, outdoor projects are going on. This past Saturday, Councilor Kubaski was able to join us for a reception honoring Mr. Matthew Borelli. Actually, it was his reception for a statue that was a gift to the town and to the library, particularly of a teacher reading to 2 children. Mr. Borelli gave this statue, he actually commissioned the statue's creation and gave the statue to the library in honor of his wife's teaching career at Eli Terry Elementary School. And he thought that it would be better to have it in a place that was going to be seen by everyone, not just the parents and children at one particular school. So everyone working on the outside projects made sure that we were quite tidy and safe for some of the older visitors who came particularly to that program, which is really fantastic. BCI, Bartholomew Contract Interiors, which is the vendor that is doing the carpeting project, did likewise inside. So we actually scaled the project inside to a point where nobody was going to be tripping over tools or furniture that was out of place or things like that, although it was, Friday night before everything got out of the way. But it was able to happen. And we do anticipate that the projects inside the building, the carpeting project, will be done by the beginning of October, even though we interrupted it a little bit. We have a couple of other projects that are ongoing as part of the refreshing of the library after 25 years in the expansion, which is...
That's great.
That's the length of time. But we have some reupholstery that will be showing up next month, and we have some areas where the tops of bookshelves that are laminates have been deteriorating and have been repaired several times, and now they're going to be replaced. So it's going to look quite a bit refreshed when that is all done, and then we'll be back in regular business. So
Awesome.
Thank you very much. And I will say that although we anticipated that we might have some conversations at the desk, we've been trying to reassure people that there was no problem if they have trouble getting in, or if they come and they see sawhorses and cones and can't get inside, or feel they can't get inside, they can give us a call. But the projects happen to coincide with the board's decision to drop overdue fines on just about everything. So people who are worried that they can't get in or that they can't reach the book drop are not incurring any overdue fines by bringing things back late.
Very
So
nice.
it's a good month.
Thank you. Very nice. Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter? Not seeing any, we'll be moving on to item 16, communications from the council, please. Is there any? Not, you're hiding over there. Okay, Councilor Kubaski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to follow up on what Mrs. Etter was saying regarding the event on Saturday. First of all, wonderful job with everything, having it set up. It was very easy for some of the older folks that were there to get in and out, so that was great. But it was in honor of Andrea Borelli, a former third grade teacher here in town, and they told a funny story, but it just goes to show you how a teacher can impact a life. So they were traveling somewhere in Connecticut, their car had broken down, they went into a garage, and while they were talking to the service manager, a large man from the garage bays came out, tattoos all over his arms, recognized her from where he was working, came over, picked her up, and spun her around, made her talk to his mother on the phone, and then his brother, who also had her. And it just goes to show you the impact that somebody could have, a teacher could have on a child's life. Another story was Miss Roseanne Sapora from town. Her daughter had this Miss Borelli for 3rd grade. She did a book report where she got to dress up as a character in the book. Was an archaeologist. She wanted to be an archaeologist, went through 3.5 years of college for something else, came back, told her mother, I want to be an archaeologist. I want to go back to what I was reading about in 3rd grade. She changed up her program, and now she works as an archaeologist for out in Utah. So really, it was a wonderful presentation, and again, it just put the focus on the fact how much teachers can affect the students that they have, or as Mrs. Burley said, her kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, communications? Not seeing any. Executive session, there is none. Moving on, adjournment, please. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. We are now adjourned at 8:55. Thank you.